If you are carrying a heavy, invisible ledger in your mind, a book where you meticulously record every hurt, every betrayal, and every injustice the world has ever handed you, then sit down. Breathe. This story is for you. We often believe that remembering our pain protects us from being hurt again. But what if that very armor is the thing slowly suffocating your soul? In a forgotten valley, where the mountains stood like silent witnesses to the passage of time, lived a man named Master Shen. He was a man of immense wealth, but his face bore the rigid, hardened lines of a barren landscape. Shen was a moneylender, but more than silver or copper, Shen collected debts of the spirit. Everywhere he went, he carried a thick, heavy ledger bound in cracked black leather. The pages were yellowed, smelling of dried ink and old bitterness. Inside this book, he recorded not only the coins owed to him by the desperate villagers, but also the debts of life. He wrote down the name of the father who abandoned him when he was a fragile boy. He recorded the name of the wife who left him when his pockets were empty. He etched the names of the merchants who spat on him when he begged for scraps in the winter snow. Shen truly believed the world was in his debt. He convinced himself that kindness was a luxury for the foolish and that his ruthlessness was a necessary shield. He had survived the freezing winters of human cruelty by turning his own heart into ice. It was the year of the Great Flood. The skies tore open, pouring relentless, punishing rain upon the earth. Crops rotted in the mud. Hunger stalked the village like a shadow. Yet on the darkest day of the storm, Master Shen wore his thickest oilskin coat, tucked the black leather ledger tightly against his chest, and marched through the knee-deep mud to collect a debt. His destination was a dilapidated, wretched hut clinging to the edge of the swollen river. Inside lived a man named Lin, a farmer whose fields had been swallowed by the muddy waters. When Shen arrived, pushing open the rotting wooden door, the air inside was thick with the smell of damp earth and despair. Lin stood near the back window, overlooking the raging river, his eyes hollow and utterly devoid of life. In the corner, his wife clutched a shivering, weeping infant. Lin owed Shen 3 pieces of silver, a sum he could not repay in 3 lifetimes, let alone now. "The debt is due, Lin." Shen's voice was flat, colder than the rain lashing against the thatched roof. Lin turned slowly. There was no anger left in him, only a terrifying, hollow surrender. He looked at the churning, violent river below the window. "A life for a debt, Master Shen. If I throw myself into these waters, my wife and child will be free. That is the law of the underworld. That is the karma you speak of." Lin took a step toward the ledge. His wife screamed, throwing herself onto his legs, begging him to stop. Shen merely stood there, his hand resting on the black leather book. He watched with a chilling detachment. If he jumps, Shen thought. The world owes me. Karma is absolute. You borrow, you bleed. But before Lin could make his final, desperate leap, the heavens unleashed a deafening roar. The wind shattered the frail wooden window frame, blowing Lin backward onto the dirt floor. The storm intensified into a blinding, torrential hurricane, uprooting trees and turning the path outside into a deadly river of mud. Shen was trapped. The moneylender, the farmer, the weeping mother, and the crying child were locked together in the freezing, leaky cage of the hut. As night fell, the temperature plummeted. The wind howled through the gaps in the walls like tortured spirits. Shen sat in the corner, pulling his coat tight, clutching his book. But the cold was not just outside. It began to seep into his bones. His clothes were soaked. By midnight, a violent tremor overtook him. His vision blurred, and his skin burned with a sudden, unnatural heat. he had caught the marsh fever. Through the delirium of his rising temperature, the sounds of the storm faded into a strange, muffled silence. The dripping water from the leaky roof sounded like the ticking of a colossal clock. The shadows cast by the occasional strike of lightning began to stretch and twist across the mud walls. Shen's breathing grew shallow. His fingers gripped the black leather ledger so tightly, his knuckles turned white. Then, out of the darkest corner of the room, a figure emerged. It was not a terrifying demon from the underworld. It was not the ghost of a starved debtor. It was a small, fragile boy, no older than 7. The boy was shivering, dressed in rags that barely covered his thin, bruised shoulders. His feet were bare and covered in mud. But it was the boy's eyes that made Shen's breath catch in his throat. They were wide, luminous, and filled with a profound, innocent sorrow. In his small, trembling hands, the boy held half of a roasted sweet potato, still warm, offering it out into the empty air. Shen recognized those eyes. He recognized that half sweet potato. It was the only food he had managed to beg for on a freezing winter night decades ago, and he remembered giving half of it to a dying beggar, smiling despite his own unbearable hunger. The boy was him. The child walked slowly toward the feverish, trembling man. He looked down at the thick black ledger resting on Shen's chest. "You survived," the little boy whispered. His voice was fragile, like a dry leaf caught in the wind, yet it echoed with the weight of a falling mountain. "You grew tall. You grew rich. You made everyone who hurt us pay." Shen tried to speak, but his throat was sealed with a heavy, suffocating lump. Tears, hot and unfamiliar, began to pool in his eyes. "You wrote down all their names," the child continued, pointing a dirty, frail finger at the leather book. "You made sure the world paid its debt to you. But tell me," the boy leaned in closer. A tear slipped down his dirty cheek. "When will you pay me back?" Shen gasped, clutching his chest as if a blade had been twisted into his heart. "To survive the winter," the boy whispered. "To become this powerful man. You killed me. You killed my kindness. You killed my ability to trust. You suffocated me beneath the pages of that dark book. You hold everyone accountable, but you stole my soul to build your armor. Who will pay for the child you murdered inside yourself?" The words struck Shen with the force of lightning. The heavy armor of righteous anger, the shield of victimhood he had worn for 30 years, suddenly shattered into a million jagged pieces. He realized in an agonizing flash of clarity that in his desperate attempt to never be a victim of the world again, he had become the executioner of his own humanity. The ledger was not a record of justice. It was a tomb, and he had locked himself inside it. Shen reached out a trembling, calloused hand to touch the boy's face, but his fingers met only the empty, cold air. The fever broke. Shen awoke with a sharp gasp. The storm had passed. Through the shattered window, a pale, soft light filtered into the gloomy hut. It is often said that a crack is not a sign of brokenness, but rather the place where the light enters. The golden rays of the morning sun illuminated the dust dancing in the quiet air. He sat up slowly. His clothes were damp, his body weak, but an inexplicable, profound lightness filled his chest. The crushing, phantom weight he had carried on his shoulders for decades was gone. He looked across the room. Lin and his wife were huddled in the corner, sleeping the exhausted sleep of those who expected to wake up in hell. Shen looked down at his hands. Resting on his lap was the black leather ledger. It felt different now. It didn't feel like power. It felt like dead weight. Slowly, with deliberate, quiet movements, Shen stood up. He walked over to the small, cold stone hearth in the center of the hut. He opened the book. The ink stared back at him. The names of his father, his ex-wife, his rivals, and Lin's debt. With a deep, cleansing breath, Shen grabbed the first handful of pages. He tore them out. The sound of ripping paper was loud in the silent room, but it was the most beautiful music he had ever heard. He struck a flint. A small spark jumped, catching the edge of the dry, yellowed paper. He tore another handful, and another. He fed the names of his enemies to the flames. He fed his resentments, his victimhood, his painful past into the fire. The flames leapt higher, casting a warm, comforting glow across the miserable hut. When the fire was crackling steadily, fueled by the ashes of a lifetime of bitterness, Shen took a small pot of water, scooped a handful of rice from his own travel pouch, and placed it over the burning ledger to cook. The smell of smoke mingled with the sweet, earthy aroma of boiling rice porridge. Lin woke up with a start. He looked at Shen, terrified, expecting the moneylender to drag him to the river. Instead, he saw a man kneeling by the fire, his face illuminated by the soft, dancing flames. Shen's eyes, once cold and dead, were shining with quiet tears. Shen poured the warm porridge into a cracked wooden bowl and walked over to Lin. He handed it to the starving man. "Eat," Shen whispered, his voice warm and steady. "The storm has passed, and there are no debts left to pay." Forgiveness, my friend, is really about pardoning the person who wronged you. It is about opening the heavy doors of the prison you built for yourself. As long as you keep the ledger of your pain, you remain chained to the very people who hurt you. When the fiercest storm passes, it always leaves behind the clearest blue sky. Life's greatest miracle is not avoiding the mud. It is allowing yourself to become the lotus that roots in the dark, dirty depths, yet rises above the water to bloom, pure and unblemished. Let go of the book. Let the fire of understanding burn away your past. You owe it to the innocent child within you to finally live in peace. If this story touched your heart, or if you know someone who is carrying a heavy ledger of their own, please share it with them. Subscribe to our channel so we may continue to walk this path of healing together. Tell me, what is one thing you are ready to tear from your own ledger today? Leave a comment below. May your heart find the quiet sanctuary it deserves.